Call our meeting to order, and we're going to begin with our prayer. I've asked Terry Pikett if she would to lead us in prayer tonight.
Okay, let's pray. Dear God, thank you for the freedom that we have to assemble together like this, and thank you for the rain. And I pray for Tim's wife's recovery quickly and for their family, and that you'll be good this meeting tonight and help it to go well, and that we will be carrying people toward each other. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Now, if everyone will stand and join me as we say our pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll have our introductions.
Valerie Alderson, Town Clerk.
Diane Laughlin.
Mike Adams.
Tina Barnes.
Tim Sessions.
Elizabeth McClellan. Alicia Flowers.
Scott Whitaker, Town Manager.
Katrina Pitt, Finance Officer.
William Hill, Auditor. And now, on to our consent agenda. Anyone had an opportunity to look at that? Any changes need to be made, or someone like to make a motion? Motion by Mr. McClellan.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Barnes. All in favor, please raise your hand. It is unanimous. Announcements. Does anyone have any announcements?
Two quick things I'd like to tell everybody about. On September the 13th, that's a Saturday, we're going to have two events here in Summerfield. One is a Fetch a Truck event for kids. If you don't know what that is, we bring a lot of vehicles out in the community, think construction, military, big trucks and things that kids would like to climb on and see and touch up close, and just give them a fun time to do that. That evening we also have another Music in the Park event. We have a band called the Stephen LeGray Band out of Greensboro, and as far as their genre goes, they describe themselves as a blend of classic rock, top 40, Motown, R&B, and pretty much anything in the last 6 decades, let's say. And they do become highly recommended, and that is Saturday, September 13th. And also one other thing for those of you that were planning to come last night, had tickets for the volunteers to come out to the ballpark at the Grasshoppers game. That, of course, was rescheduled for this evening, but your tickets, if you have unused tickets, those are still good for any other home game. Basically, you can trade them in, and that's, as far as there's availability, but I don't think that's usually a problem. So you can still use them, and you can still use the Davis bucks that come with them. So.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Whitaker. Any other announcements? Hearing none, we'll move on to our public comments. We'll begin with Mr. Frank.
Frank Fika, 6300 Westcott Drive. I'd just like to thank the town for letting me speak. I guess as a lot of you are aware, the last couple of months or month and a half here, there's been a little bit of, how can I say this in a good way, but I guess we need to look at this development ordinance in a better way. And being that there's a draft in the works now, I feel that this is a really good time because, as all of you are aware, we had 2 zoning requests within the last month. One of them went through very good. I'm not going to mention the other one's name, that has some flaws in it. And I think with the turnout that was 100+ people, I think the writing's on the wall that something needs to be done to help the citizens. We want development. We like development. It's just that I think that the playing field right now, it seems to be not balanced. seems to be that the information that is given to the citizens comes in at the last minute. We feel that we don't have a fair enough amount of time to digest it. I mean, for instance, if an applicant comes in and puts in a request for like a major rezoning or any rezoning, the applicant is given enough time to work through the process. It's very rarely that it's going to pack. I mean, it's going to come up to muster the first time they bring it into the town planner. But the citizens were not notified until that process is done, and then the letters go out. So what I'm trying to say is, if the applicant has 2 weeks, 2 months, 3 months to work out, any differences, I feel the citizens should be able to be notified that there is an application coming in for a rezoning. To be aware of it there, that something's coming on the books, not just a last minute there, which previously, we know there's some faults that were in the system about notification, and I think we all realize that they can be improved on. I mean, I'm not going to go back and hash on the past there. I'm just grateful that the town listened to us. I mean, we have a good website. I feel that it would not be a problem if an applicant comes in for like a rezoning, then at least there's something on the site, on the website that would say that something's in the works. I mean, to me, it's public notice. As soon as somebody walks into town hall, it gives information there. I think the whole town should know about it. I feel that we can work on the development ordinance and put a little bit more teeth into it to protect the town, protect the citizens, and make it so good developers don't mind that. Because if they're going to put the olive branch out, like I said before, and go around and try to talk to citizens. Ones that don't like playing that game, I think they're going to have to realize that Summerfield is requiring that now. So that's just a few things like that I just wanted to talk about. And I know for myself and the citizens that I'm involved in that we were able to muster on like 100 people within a couple of weeks. And we would like to keep this going to help the town, to make the town better. I'm really here for everybody, so I appreciate the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thanks for your thoughts. Gail Dunn.
Camden 5805, Stonehill Drive. Number of things on my mind tonight. I think Mr. Wychuk was correct where there's a perception the ball field is such level. Actually, the way Scott and Julie delayed the zoning board meeting to just piggyback to the town meeting, it was definitely wrong. The citizens, because of the holiday, the citizens only had 30 hours to prepare a protest petition between the time of the zoning meeting and when it had to be submitted. I'm sorry, that's not a level playing field. That's a terrible thing to do to anyone in this town. The people were not treated well, and I agree that it should be a learning exercise. We had $26,500 in the town budget for animal control and animal shelter. Yet, I think Scott's maintaining a feline animal shelter on the Gordon property, which is now owned by the town. I don't know why he said he wanted to do this, or he said he wanted to do this resources because he likes animals. We all like animals, but we're paying the county for some services, and I don't think it's safe. I don't think it's prudent. I think there's liability with this. The planner is $90,000 a year, line item in the budget. And she's taking care of them. She said she's doing it on her own time, but I think the liability is still the rest of the town. And we're going to have kittens this spring, and how long is this going to go on? Scott should have signed a contract to buy the Gordon property as a clean piece of property. It looks like it's becoming a rummage sale where we're looking for treasures. We've got this cat welfare group going, and now there's total separating out all the wood, may sell it. Are we gonna be a Hobby Lobby next with all these things? There is an expense to separating out old wood and looking for metal or whatever, and I'm concerned about the liability of the building. I don't think anything there warrants any risk, but it should have been a clean piece of property, and to avoid any liability of the building collapsing in the last 2 months. The report that he gave sounds like we're just separating out all the wood and, really do this piecemeal, and I'm not sure it's necessary. The building and the wood is owned by the town, it's owned by the people of Summerfield, and if the people of Summerfield would like to recycle it and reuse it, then I think that should be done. But I think that needs to be done soon, rather than spending money on an inventory and an engineer, evaluations, and everything else. I wanted to clarify something about town pay and benefits for the employees. I have a summary from June 30th, 2013 of town pay and benefits. I have filed many public records requests for an update of this, and I had suggested that you should have this update to the budget process. The pay and benefits is the largest fixed item in the budget, and I think you should have that information, and it should have been disclosed. Scott has not responded to the public records requests. And I mailed all of this to all of you. I suggested that we needed this information, and if you don't care, then maybe don't serve on the town council. But it's okay for the public to ask for this information. And the problem was not that I was disclosing incorrect information. The problem is that Scott is not providing complete information. And perhaps the newspaper could encourage Scott, and I'll be happy to give this to Patty, maybe they could encourage you to provide the information. Scott has $107,000 for pay and benefits, although we're not sure of that because it's a lump sum. It's a budget item for that whole group. That includes his 8.3% raise last year. The town planner is a $101,600 line item in the budget, but I understand her pay and benefits are about $90,000 a year, give or take overtime, which hasn't been explained. These are terrific benefits. Health care, dental, vision, life insurance. The taxpayers contribute 3% to the 401k, and this includes a wonderful North Carolina pension that all of the full-time, any of the town employees that over 20 hours, they're all going to get this North Carolina pension after only 5 years of service, and then the taxpayers will pay on that for a lifetime. The July agenda, Scott wanted, he had a lease for the White House on Gordon property on the agenda, and he always said he wanted to lease it to Julie at free or no cost, and the building needs thousands of dollars worth of repair.
Ms. Dillon, your time is up. Thank you.
Can I comment just one thing about SRA that I think would be helpful to you?
Quick.
The SRA, with their the IRS nonprofit 990, has not been disclosed to the board members. Katrina looked up the last three, but there's quite a bit of information that would be helpful for them to provide. I know they said they're all going to come in September, and it's very possible the money's there, but I think it would be helpful. There's a finance meeting on Monday. It's been requested. They should, for a nonprofit, they should disclose their bylaws, copies of their 990s. They have not disclosed the board members on their tax returns. The board members should all be disclosed. The town doesn't know any of that. They also should disclose the 1096 and their not in the 1099s. But if they disclose that information, we could have less conflict about the whole issue.
Thank you. Dwayne Crawford.
Dwayne Crawford, 1106 Tennessee Highway 150 West. First, I'd like to apologize for what I said in the email. It was not meant to be interpreted in a negative sense. It was meant to express and draw attention to an issue that I was writing about further in the email that I sent to council. It was never meant to have the negative connotation, and I do apologize, especially you, Doug. All right. and I talked about this at the last Trails Committee. And I'm going to try to do justice to what I said there and repeat what I said there. And I'm probably going to fail on that front, but I'm going to do my best. First of all, on the Greenway Trails, everybody needs to know my position on this Greenway thing. I am agnostic. I don't care. I don't have time to walk these trails. I'm not going to walk these trails, but they don't bother me. Trails are fine things for the people who like them. What I do care about are the politics of trails. And we've already had some dealings up here with politics of these trails, and thank you for addressing that the way you did recently. And I care about the long-term costs and obligations for the town, like our ball fields, which cost us $100,000 a year that we never anticipated. So, question I have in our discussion here, I'd like to know in total, what is the town cadet, what is the full obligation in all aspects and all regards? Or is there actually not a formal obligation that we must do something? I'm sure we've already committed to paying for something, I know that part, but beyond that. Okay, this is what I talked about, trail committee. Do we have an inventory of what's there, all the trails that already exist? Because I know trails exist. I watched them put one around Lake Canyons. I grew up around Lake Canyons. It goes all the way over the Brass Eagle Loop, 2.5 whatever miles. I know there's a trail over to Carmel. I think there's a trail that goes from the Milk Trail to Carmel there at Charlotte Road. I'm told you can walk that trail all the way over to Lake County. I've ridden over on the far east, northeast side of Summerfield, the name of the road off of Lake Brant that goes east towards Lake Townsend. There's a trail down there, I didn't know. We had a trail. There's a battleground, go for battleground trails. There's a Greenway trail getting ready to go in over here on Bunch Road. So do we have an inventory of what's there? And have we measured the utilization of those trails? I think these are important prerequisites to looking ahead and deciding how much money we're going to spend, or if we're going to spend money at all. You serve the citizens of Summerfield. You don't serve the interests of other populations outside of Summerfield, though you may act to do that. But are the citizens of Summerfield satisfied in their demand, their practical demand? I don't mean what people get up here and say they want, but I'm not just talking about on the sunshiny, warm afternoon where it's comfortable to get out and walk on the trail. I'm talking about 365 days a year, because that's what our obligation will be financially. We need that inventory, I think, and we need that measured utilization to make a decision going forward. And finally, I'd like to know if the Greenway is a done deal as far as this council is concerned. I know we had a county, a person from the county, might have been say it, get a little feedback. Somebody from the state came up here and said that at some point, you guys have to make a decision. Are you going to do something, or are you just going to drop it? The question I'm raising here is, has that decision already made? If we already crossed that point, has this council already committed, but not stated it outright, that we are going to do this? And I'd like to know that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crawford. Joseph Colbert and son Dylan.
I spoke with him earlier, and he wanted his name removed. He's not present.
Oh, he's not here, okay, sorry. Cherry Pickett.
Good evening, everyone. Cherry Pickett, 7804 Robinson Road. And I wanted to apologize to Valerie real quickly because she had just told me that her mom is not doing well, and I should have included you in the prayer. And I will pray for you. About a month ago, I was talking to a woman who said that she and her husband are actually thinking about moving out of Summerfield and go further north. She said that they wanted to be more rural. She said that it's where she didn't want to mention her name. She said that where they're living is the northern part of Summerfield, but it's getting too busy and loud. So she said they might even want to move as far up as getting close to Virginia. And I also wanted to talk about I know that all the highways are coming through Summerfield, and we're having this division in our town, and I know that the 73 is going to be crossing 150, and I'm really disappointed to know that that big intersection there, that there's going to be the commercial businesses and then possibly a gas station. I do think that it's going to bring in more people, more traffic, and it will be louder. And I feel for the neighborhoods around that area. And I do agree with Scott that it would be a good idea to have a generator at the town hall. And I would like to see us do a little bit more for preparing like that for emergencies or disasters. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Pickett. Kathy Flanagan.
Kathy Flanagan, 7532 Strawberry. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm with Golden Antiques, and I wanted to ask for a donation of children's books, not from the council, but from individuals who are here. We have a free little library that is in place. We're on the national map. And the mayor has come and read at our story time, and we have big support from Dina. But we are in need of a few children's books to have out, and it's out 24 hours a day. We don't ever bring it. The library is there free to take, and we have had quite a bit of interest in it, so it's been good. Thank you, Terry, for the lovely prayer this evening. It was lovely. I am also just wanted to announce that the upcoming sale next week will be vintage Pyrex and corningware for collectors, and thank you for this time. Please stop by. The word of mouth is great, and check out the free little library.
Thank you very much.
Can I ask a question just during your time? I have some videos. Did y'all take those, or do you just take books?
Just books.
I didn't give them to you because I
I guess. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Williamson?
Golden Antiques,
That's all the folks that had signed up. I know she came in late.
Yeah.
Did you want to share?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm April Wilson, I live at 3901 Wilson Road, Greenwood, North Carolina. Get big old night. About the generator, we already have a generator. I mean, we bought one 7 years ago. And we bought a truck to tow around with. So I'm not going to do it. And the power's never been off, you know, we have a real severe storm. And I don't think that's an expense we could take on again. And, you know, we can use the emergency generator we already have, you know, so we have what we can do. We don't have that many bad storms. I mean, we live down this state, so we need them. For Florida. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Yes,
I will, since Mr. Williamson brought up the generator and Ms. Pickett did too. Council's probably looking kind of puzzled at that. I was going to mention it in my report later in the meeting. Of course, we do have a large mobile diesel generator that's part of our continuity of operations plan with Guilford EMS. And that is for the shelters in the event of a major emergency. What's been mentioned is, I had asked the public safety if they would look at the potential, their opinion on the need for one at Town Hall, because let's say we had some kind of natural disaster emergency, and our large mobile generator was being used at one of the shelters. It would be good for us to have a base of operations, which is our town hall, and then our field house at the athletic park is the alternate. But right now, we don't have a standby generator, and I started thinking about this because last week power went out one day for a couple of hours, and just started thinking about the feasibility of that from a public safety standpoint and a practical standpoint too. And so this is a much smaller, less expensive, but a permanent standby generator. And it's just an idea that I floated out there to the Public Safety Committee to talk about at the next meeting.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank Kim Adams, Mr. Adams' wife's name, for I did have an emergency. She just came to my aid. I went home and put my towel on and laid my glasses somewhere and walked out of the house.
It's just a shame that they're not sequined.
I know. I really, no matter what they were, I was going to put them on. I was going to ask Mr. Crawford if he would to please shut the video off. So, any other public comments? Yes, sir.
Jeff Gregg, 6108 Bush Run Trail. Just want to take 2 seconds to apologize for the hothead that I was at the last meeting. I was definitely inspired, and after thinking for a while, I realized that really I need to have people to work with, not enemies. And so, Scott, Julie, council, my apologies for being so strong. I still believe a lot of what I said, but I don't want to make enemies. Let's try and work together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for taking time to do that. Now we'll have our committee reports. We'll begin with the finance.
The Finance Committee did not meet in July, but will meet this coming Monday, August 18th at 7 o'clock at Town Hall.
Okay. Historical.
Not seeing Linda here, I'll just say their next meeting is August the 28th.
Public safety.
Public Safety has been kind of taking a break this summer, and their next scheduled meeting is September the 17th.
And trails and open space.
Trails and Open Space meets August the 27th on Wednesday. We'll be continuing to talk about our options with trail.
So the trails and open space and historical are on the same.
They are. No, I'm sorry. Historical's on the 28th. Didn't I say the 28th?
Yeah.
I said the 28th and you said the 27th because I went.
I thought you said that backwards. I'm sorry if I said it wrong, but anyway. Historical's on Thursday night. Trails is on 27th on the Wednesday. And you have their minutes, had your minutes in your packet for Trails and Open Space to review.
Okay. Thank you. Those are all the committees we have lined up here from. Now we'll have business from our town manager.
Okay, the first item is approval or request for approval of October the 11th. That's a Saturday for another summer cycle, fall recycle event. Very similar to what we've done in the past in the packets. Just gave you a recap of last year, how many vehicles we had and what we collected last year. This is a coordinated effort with Guilford County, and they do a lot of the legwork, and we would host that here at Lofton Professional Development Center, and that's been a success in the past, and we would like to do it again for citizens. And Valerie, do you have anything else specific about any comments you've had with conversations you've had with Susan?
I haven't spoken with her recently. My understanding is it's approved with Laughlin to use the space, that they don't have any conflicting event. It's a very successful event. It keeps a lot of waste out of where it's not supposed to be, which we do have to report on that when we do our yearly garbage report. And the county is very pleased with how much we're collecting, and it's a good opportunity for folks to clean out things they need to clean out. And I believe there's also shredding and, are we doing mattresses again too?
She'll not respond yet.
Okay. The last time we did it was the first time we were also able to collect mattresses, and there was a good deal of them collected, and I believe they go to
mattress go round, and they have a program where they refurnish these mattresses using labor of folks that are trying to re-enter society that can't get jobs otherwise, so it's kind of a win-win for everybody. So it's a really good event.
And if we can get settled on the date this evening, we'll start getting more information to you, and we'll be advertising that soon.
Is that, what hours is that, like 8 to 2, 8 to?
Was it 8 to 2 the last time?
Valerie, you think they're gonna add anything last year they added the mattresses, will they add anything this year?
I don't think so, I don't foresee it.
I think it would be good for the public to know that we collected 1,820 scrap tires, which is one of my favorites, because I hate seeing them on the side of the road. And 77 mattress sets. Plus, they shred documents, and you can stand there and watch them, watch the screen and watch them shred your stuff, so it's not like you're leaving it and going away. It's very secure. It's a great, great program. I love it.
Along with 7 tons of electronics. So,
So they'll take all the tires that you bring.
Yep.
I got a bunch of them, there's no place I need to get rid of.
It's not supposed to be
and you're close by.
businesses.
No, it's
Businesses are not supposed to bring tires, it's residential.
I don't know, we had somebody last year that got turned away because they had a race car company or something like that, and they must have had 200 tires on the trailer. But if you come in with 10 or 15 or 20 tires, they'll take,
I think it might be a few more than that.
well, they'll take
Not no, it's just automobile tires, it's not
Right.
nothing big.
And it's handy for you too, so down the street. So we're recommending that October 11th be the date, and at Laughlin from 8 to 2, and we would be asking for some volunteer help that day too, as we normally do.
and you get lunch.
You get lunch.
That require a motion. Let's go ahead and do this.
You get
I'll make a motion to approve October 11th for the date for the summer cycle fall recycling event at Rockland School.
Motion by Ms. Flowers,
Second.
second by Mr. Adams. All in favor, please raise your hand. Unanimous. Okay.
Next item would be elimination of athletic park advertising and sponsorship policy. This goes back to a February Finance Committee meeting where the Finance Committee was discussing specific revenue at the park and the athletic park, and had the conversation about the banner revenue. And what we're talking about is like you see up the street here at the school ball fields, banners on the fences advertising different businesses. And so, long story short, what came out of that conversation was the town hadn't been doing much with that program, if you will, and it's kind of a hard thing to keep up with, and for different reasons, internally, we don't particularly like having that at the park for different reasons, for keeping them up and keeping it all tied together. And so ultimately, we talked about that, and the Finance Committee made a recommendation to remove that specific part from the budget, the banner revenue line item. And that is a big part of this policy. So what we're talking about tonight is a policy that has that at its core. There, as I gave you the policy, you can see some other revenue streams there in terms of pennants on the large lighting poles that we have for the parks, scoreboard sponsorship, and logo panels on that. And we haven't been doing any of this in quite a while. This was put in place shortly after the park, or actually right when the park was brand new. And it never really got off the ground for different reasons, the advertising banners, and it's really, for all practical purposes, irrelevant, especially considering that we took that line item out for the banners on the fencing, and you, council, have spoken about that a couple of times during the budget process too. And my request is that we just eliminate this policy altogether, because it's just another policy clogging up our server that we're not using, and I'd like to streamline and eliminate it.
How much revenue are we talking about here, eliminating potential revenue if the thing was actively?
Potential depends on how you structured your fees. What my understanding is, when it was first initiated, that the suggested fees were kind of closely mirrored what the Greensboro Grasshoppers sponsorship signs were, which is a little bit too, it's a little bit expensive.
Oh, really?
I saw being on the finance committee, I saw the prices to put a banner up. And I used to do it at Western Gulf High School when I coached football and soccer over there. And what we were looking for a banner is, where a business could make a $500 decision to put a banner up, it was like $1,000. So businesses don't go for that.
Didn't we have someone at one time, I think this might have been when the park first opened, that was going to do the scoreboard?
I haven't heard that before. That was before my time.
Somebody was gonna do the scoreboard.
The scoreboards were donated by Coca-Cola.
Yeah. I thought it was. Okay, but they didn't have any advertising contract with us?
Just so their products would be in
Right,
our park.
right.
But yeah, they took care of those.
I don't know. I am disappointed that it's never been actively pursued, that no one has ever really followed this program and given it a chance to maybe generate some revenue for the other part.
As I remember, part of the conversation that was on the table at that time, it was the cost of maintenance of the banners. It was a generator of revenue, correct, but it was also a function of cost of just getting it straightened out, making sure as they fell off, whose responsibility is that? And I think we looked at, we didn't have hard figures, but I think that collectively that we all kind of looked at it, probably the cost benefit ratio was just not there for this particular activity.
It's unfortunate because I see banners at every other ball field. And I just wonder how come they can be successful at it and we can't.
Well, Summerfield Rec does it, and, of course, they presented about doing it over here. I think the number they gave, they thought they could raise a year was like 30,000. But, we don't have the personnel to put those up, to make sure they stay up appropriately, to take them down when it's not appropriate to have them up there. And quite frankly, our price is too expensive for companies that would do those type of things to step up and say, yeah, we'll go $1,000.
So are you saying that there's potentially $30,000 worth of revenue there?
I'm saying that's what I remember SRA said.
Okay,
I'm not saying that at all.
so,
I'm repeating what I heard said. I don't want to leave here with the responsibility of raising $30,000.
that's my next question, because I thought you would be really good at this.
Well, there's no question it would be worthwhile, and, I think a concern of Mr. Whitaker's is that they be uniform and look nice, and certainly we appreciate that, and we would want them to look that way. But I either think we need to get rid of it, or we need to price it more appropriately, and have a plan for how we're going to take care of it.
Well, I would like to price it more appropriately and have a plan first, and if that doesn't fly, then get rid of it.
But I don't think Mr. Gord has, I know he doesn't have time in his schedule.
I don't expect Jeff to do it.
Boy, it's not only just the maintenance of keeping it up, it's also the cause of tracking down the money when people want to pay or replacing the banners. It's just so much more internally of actually reaching out. I mean, it's not like we're just going to say we have sponsorship possibilities at the park and people are just going to run and say, yeah, I want to do that. It really takes somebody initiating that and calling these businesses and letting them know.
I think we have the perfect person sitting right here at this council table. And so.
What are you doing, Diane?
What are you looking at?
I think she's more than me.
Well, and to piggyback off of what Jeff is saying, it's not just a matter of, it is administratively something to keep up with, because you're keeping up with it probably on an annual basis, unless you can sell it long-term consistently. But it's, once they're up, you're having to constantly retie them because, you know, the wind comes through and knocks them down. But then they need to be taken down at the end of the fall season and stored to take care of them, and then they need to all go back up in the spring season. They don't need to be out there all winter when the fields are empty. And it's, to go back to the earlier comment, it's, in my view, it's not worth the effort.
I would make one other comment too, just to support that. I was involved in a banner advertising many years ago, since y'all were children. And,
Well, here's our guy.
I can tell
Did
you.
you include me in that remark?
No, you were just a toddler. You were a toddler, you weren't a child then. So, but anyway, one of the things that was the most difficult thing that we had to do was the renewal of contracts. And do we sell it on a monthly basis on the fields? Do we sell it on a per season basis? And then the renewal of those contracts and the changing of signs. But it was a renewal of contract that paid up so much manpower. And that was, it wasn't the banners, they looked actually quite nice. But it was just a function of just the contract maintenance was the most difficult thing. And as Jeff said, it's just the continual outreach to go find a new banner to contract for the season. And that's what was your target, contract for the season, not for a month, for the season.
Well, I think I see a second qualified person sitting at this council table.
I have a comment. If y'all recall, I don't know how many of you were here when our first mayor instituted the Summerfield policy of if you bring something forward, you get to chair the committee.
Tina, he died.
Okay.
So,
When
all
we
all I'm saying is, it costs the taxpayers $100,000 a year to maintain those fields. If we have a potential of improving $30,000 to go towards that maintenance fee, I think we just need to explore it. Maybe not do it, just let's explore it, since it hasn't been.
If we make 30,000, I go and spend out 15,000 to hire, get somebody's salary to do that, what have we made?
Well, suppose we have volunteers to do that, Diane.
I think 30,000 is slightly inflated, to be quite frank. I think they were, that was
And I
a
made a
different
mistake.
position there. They
I
were,
thought that's what I heard.
we may have heard that, but I think that was highly inflated.
Yeah, I think
Considering
we need
it was
to
only
see that.
made, copy made us for $800 or something?
The,
In a total advertising banner, and they labeled the
I think we had one or two this past year,
None last year.
or none.
Two last year.
And just to comment on that, if you don't have the fences, you know, we've got 3 baseball fields out there. If you don't have them full or full enough to where you can space them out evenly, you can't make anything look decent out there. And I'll add, I don't really care for the way it looks. And you can do it nicely, but it's not worth the effort in my view.
Let me toss out just another kind of from left field, so to speak. What if there was a group that would administer this to offset any dues that may be required for field use? But they had to follow the guidelines and the policies, and it had to be fully occupied by banners, or that agreement would be null and void. So if there were such a group in the community, would that be a possibility to consider?
Go ahead. Come out.
Well, I guess like I said, with
That's
left
not
field, you know,
fine.
that's not a real fun place to
Well,
go.
who, I mean, who you suggest does this?
I don't know, you. I
Okay.
think, I'm
I
serious.
have freedom.
I think that you are in touch with the community, and I think that you would be a good person to go and sell the idea to merchants in the town and surrounding area. And I also think that Mr. Adams, since he has experience, would be good at it too. But here's the bottom line, I really don't care. It's just a suggestion. I represent the taxpayers. If we could recoup some of the money we spend on maintaining those fields, then I think we should consider it. And if the rest of you think it's a crappy idea,
I don't know in particular what group Mr. Adams was referring to, but in the sense of volunteerism and, you know, some folks who may take interest in this or want to be involved, you know, I think the very obvious one was Summerfield Rec. I don't know, haven't had any conversations with them on that regard. But then secondly, you know, we hope very soon, maybe next month, to start putting together a Summerfield Merchants Association again. And if we wanted to use your left field, if we want to throw them the ball, say, hey, you know, would they be interested in taking this on as a project as we start? And I wouldn't mind being involved in it. I wouldn't mind helping to market it and talk to people about it, but I don't have time to have signs made, to make sure that they're policed, to make sure that we can do collections for it, to make sure that they're maintained.
I think that's a great idea, and it's one worthy of consideration. So all I'm saying is, let's consider it, and let's not get rid of the policy yet. It's not hurting anything to keep it in case we have a merchants association and they decide they want to do this. And 6 months from now, this can come back before the council, and if it's not successful, then we can get rid of it.
Okay, any other discussion?
So how would you word that, since the finance committee has unanimously recommended to remove it?
Well, I don't know what kind of a discussion the finance committee had, and since the mayor was present, we could explain that to you.
Well, can we move to lay it on the table until time where someone else may want to come forward to do
Okay,
that?
that's good.
You can table it indefinitely or to a date certain, whichever you want.
Well, it's just, if we table it indefinitely, then if something comes up where we want to redo it, we can take it off the table then.
Okay.
That would be acceptable. I'll make a motion to table it indefinitely at this time.
And I'll second that motion.
Motion.
I'll defer to
No,
Mr. Adams.
that's quite okay.
Motion by Ms. Barnes, second by Ms. Flowers. All in favor, please raise your hand. Unanimous.
Question, it's tabled, it's still an active policy? And it's still in the books, right? If
I
someone
would
wants
say
to do
yes.
something.
Is that right, Mr. Hill? Yes.
The big problem, I mean, it's some sort of this, the big problem was, it was overpriced here. And we may have people who want to do this in the future.
Well, that is exactly what I said at the finance committee meeting. I said, if y'all want to make these prices here, I would get rid of the policy because companies aren't going to.
So what was the discussion? Why was it unanimously? It's
Well, in part-
unanimously recommended to remove this because the efforts were not worth the return.
Let me add a comment about tabling it indefinitely, and it does remain policy. But because this was the plan, when we were doing the budget and the fee schedule, we had this conversation. With the new fee schedule, we didn't revise rates, and so we don't have rates in place for this. And so unless you direct me to very specifically, I'm not going to pursue this while it's tabled. I'm not going to pursue getting this off the ground.
Well, since the mayor mentioned a merchants association, why don't you just don't do anything until that actually happens?
Yeah.
So
And it's
we're not-
Dr. Brown, who has the charter for the whole merchant association, he's I've been waiting for him, he's been on a committee for the governor, and just finished that up in June, and he said in August or September that we could kick it off and
Okay,
try to get that going for the
great.
emergency in Summerfield.
And maybe they can just use videos, which we can see how it all works out with what they're after. And then we'll
Okay.
make it easier for the next budget year.
Okay.
Okay, the next item, City Founders Day 2015. This was requested following our May Founders Day this year. It's requested that we put this on the agenda just to help us go ahead and plan early for next year and what kind of questions came out of this past Founders Day event. One of the major questions was, is staff spending too much time? Is it requiring too much staff time to put this on? Should we reconsider the both day, Friday evening, Saturday day kind of schedule? Should we consider changing the hours? And you had requested it, and just open it up for discussion. I'll say what was provided in the packet to council was specifically the Founders Day minutes, the last one. And the more important form for you, I think, is the after action form that we do after events. And so you have that, and then you have, at your request, the last 4 years of financials, what we've spent. And just to public that, we had, it was a $30,000 budgeted item this year, and we spent $23,969.14, so almost $24,000 of $30,000.
I don't see anywhere in here that shows staff overtime, which has to be an enormous figure. So the 24,000 isn't realistic when you factor in staff overtime. So can you give me kind of a ballpark figure what staff overtime costs?
Well, we have talked about that and you've asked about it. We didn't track it, and we haven't tracked our time specifically for Founders Day. It's so sporadic during any given day a week, and I don't know, Katrina, do you have anything at all?
And that is certainly go back and look at May and look at the month and determine how much, overtime was.
I think until we know how much overtime we're spending, your line item here for 23,969 is an unrealistic figure.
And what I have said about that is, it's clearly an enormous amount of time. If you look in the after action report, there's a section on page 4 of that, staffing. It really is involved, it involves more, certain employees more than others, but most of us a considerable amount of time getting ready for it. And that's, even with a really good, solid committee, dedicated committee, there's just a lot to do because we're dealing with contracts with vendors, we're dealing with food, we're dealing with a lot of paperwork related to the parade. There's just a ton to be done. And now this year was a even exaggerated example of that because we changed the venue to the athletic park. And that'll be incrementally better next year if we went with the same plan. But it's still, there's no way around it being a lot of staff time. And I think that was the genesis for some of your questions and wanting to talk about this and see if, what you want as a council, what the town wants for Founders Day 2015 moving forward.
Did we get any feedback from the citizens specifically? I mean, we didn't really ask for any that I know of.
We had a feedback sheet to follow up meeting.
So we did.
And the majority of the feedback was, I would say, extremely positive, with the exception of some folks said we needed more transportation from the parking to the event. But other than that,
And maybe some signage where drop-offs were for children on the parade.
that's right. Yeah, definitely for the parade, yeah.
And I'll tell you, just from the after-action report, just things I had highlighted that might be germane to this discussion. you've got, for instance, we had 43 craft / business vendors. We had positive comments, we had negative comments. One of the negative comments was a disappointment with the evening turnout this was internal. The citizens weren't so disappointed, but the committee was. We planned for a bigger turnout that evening. Overall, very positive about changing the venue to the athletic park. With the caveat that it was some of the transportation and the shuttling that could have been better, and that was a first-year process, and even thought out, it needs some refinement. But if we're looking at just, if you want to have a conversation about Friday, Saturday, and hours, I think one of the questionable items is how late would you want it to run on Saturday if you like that traditional two-day format like that. And there are plenty of questions asked for this, such as, could we get a good rides vendor? That's what the challenge is. I've heard a suggestion of, well, let's just do it Saturday, one day. Well, that may work, but will probably be a much bigger challenge to get a good ride vendor. I've inquired with, like, for instance, I know Ridge Fest in Oak Ridge, they actually do their event over the course of 3 days, and they have rides all 3 days, so that's got to be attractive to a vendor, a rides vendor. But there's a lot of components here that we could use your guidance. You need to help shape what you want for next year, because what won't change is it will be, the work required of staff will be in middle budget season. And that was a challenge this year. It is, for Parks and Recreation, it's in the start of the spring season, and there's a lot to do with the field. And none of that is insurmountable. And like I said, I think this year's event was more time consuming because of the change in venue, but you may still want to step back and reevaluate what we're doing.
Would you consider changing? I'm not against it, but I know in the past there's been some.
You mean time of the year?
Yeah, the actual month, because it's budget, start of the season, it's a time, May is the new December. It's very busy for families. That particular weekend, we had 2 other events going on. There's proms, there's another event in February, wasn't it?
Can I add something that, our ride vendor went immediately from our event to, I think, Oak Ridge, and that was a big draw for him. So I think if it was to change to another time, it would be best to maybe try to coordinate it with someone close by so we can actually secure the ride vendor. It makes it more attractive for him if he can move all his stuff down here and then do our event, and then next weekend do the next event.
I see. Dina asked a very good question at the last meeting. When did Founder's Day get so big? Why did it get so big? It used to just be a parade, right?
Well, it was a parade, and then, like Jeff started. It was volunteers who did everything. Not but just to acknowledge that I would call you did the first one, didn't you? Yeah. So, the volunteers were there. We had a lot of volunteers. The people wanted to come in, and it's evolved now where it takes so much. We have to have so many things. We have to have staff doing it now. The volunteers can't do it anymore, but the volunteers can still come, but there's just a burnout.
They have more of a parade, I think, the volunteers than the actual event. Some of that is because it's town money and it has to be, Katrina, like doing the contracts and stuff.
Well, that's what I would like to understand. That's what I would like to understand is, it seems, the times that I have been involved with it before this year, it was volunteer based and in large part run by volunteers. And for some reason, I don't know if it's because of contracts were involved, because of some exposure the town had, it has become the responsibility of the town staff to do it. And, I think it would be remiss if we had this whole conversation and did not recognize the unbelievable amount of effort and hard work that was put into it by these two folks and by Mr. Whitaker and Katrina and Julie Reed came out there.
Valerie
Well,
lived there.
Valerie's my big finish. And, I mean, Julie Reed stood out there and directed buses all day. I mean, she's our planner. And, I mean, the staff really, and it was phenomenal. And the park was beautiful.
It was.
And so we have a lot to appreciate, but I really would like to see if there's a way, there are people who do want to do these things.
Where are they? Are they here tonight?
When we first started bringing the vendors and rides and things in, the PTA from Summerfield Elementary School involved. And then something came up with the Guilford County school systems that I don't think that they wanted them to do that anymore, and it just, they were a lot of volunteers from that organization.
Well, we moved from the school to the
Uh-huh.
other place.
But now, somebody told me, and I don't know how accurate this is, that originally the town did not pay for Founder's Day. The town really didn't have anything to do with Founder's Day. It was volunteers and merchants, but the town didn't foot the bill the way they do now.
They paid for the rides.
They paid for the rides.
Upfront.
But they didn't always have
Several
rides.
hundred thousand, I mean, not several hundred, several thousand.
Well, I think it evolved. It started out with the parade.
Right.
And then we had the tent and the other things. And then the fire department did something and something else came in. So it's just normally grown as the town has grown. Because we started out with 2,500 citizens and now you got 10,000. So, I mean, it evolves and it gets better. Now, you're talking about volunteer time. The volunteer involvement for the VIPs doing the parking lot, that's something that y'all will probably not get next year. I had to put some pressure on this time to make that happen. And I think that was really, you just don't even think about that. But all the volunteer time for the sheriff's department was sucked up by somebody. Anyway, but that just happened. And it's not fair to the rest of the county for that to happen. So you may want to take some of that money and either pay people to do it or get one person, look for one person and then get a citizen to work with it and learn how to do it. I just wanted to say that every time I went by the parking lot, it didn't appear that crowded when I was at the event. But I went by the parking lots and they were crammed full. So unless people were parking there and going somewhere else, it just was not that noticeable how many people were there. I don't think we had, if we did little tickets or whatever where we could pass out or something like that. Now, that's just more work to do, but you could really track more.
The parade was not well attended.
The parade was not well attended, that's true.
It was,
Well, that
I'm
was
gonna
a
say
concern.
half.
That was a concern we had with going to the athletic park.
And I think that's the other thing, the athletic park was such a large area, you didn't see the people.
Right.
Yeah.
You
but
just
never
didn't
had the
see it because they
opportunity-
were all
Everywhere. It was
spread
Never
out.
had the opportunity to spread out like that.
Now, the parade, here again, you go back to the parade, there were so many other things that were not listed on here. There were family reunions, there were all kinds of things that were going on. Prom night, Oak Ridge having something, music in the park. I mean, we have so many different things. And I don't know, it depends.
So originally, we didn't have it on Friday night. I think
That's
they
right.
started Friday night when the Rock Gym, I think the history committee wanted to have a stop
Right.
at the Rock Gym to promote that. So,
And then we planned a music in the park or something else.
so now can we do away with Friday night?
If you do Friday night for the vendors there, where it's not as much trouble, I don't know, I'd have to ask Valerie and the volunteers, because I don't think I was in town even until I came back late Friday or whatever, got here for Saturday, but,
Well, the thinking of Friday was they had the Northern Band, I think it was, that came that night, which brought a lot of kids from Northern in, and they did the rush, kind of the high school students Friday night. And then Saturday, after the parade, was more for and now this kind of big year. I think it went way too long this year. I think
I
really people by 4 o'clock, they're ready to go.
I still saw a bunch of people who came in the late afternoon, I don't know what time it was, and I brought you whatever it was, but there were still, the parking lots were still really.
Yeah, but I was there at 6, between 6 and 6:30.
Right.
The band was playing, there were like 5 people sitting there.
Right, so, yeah, I think we definitely need to look at who was there for when, and maybe cut back some time on the Saturday. If people were leaving that were doing that, I think we might want to look at cutting some of that back.
If I could make I don't want to call it a correction, but just, the sock hop that was originally started was by the graduating class from Summerfield High School. It wasn't the historic committee.
I knew it was something,
So,
something
but
to
the
take
town was not involved in that. That was a graduating class.
I think they coordinate, some of the members of the historical committee were also
Or
those
other
members, and they just
members.
worked to
but that kicked off the Friday night thing. They never had Friday night before that, as far as I
you know,
know.
like I say,
I think they had it that one time, then it skipped to a Friday night, and then we started with something on Friday night.
Mr. Crawford, are you stretching or do you?
No, I'm being patient back here.
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It was mentioned during our budget season that there is another option besides involving staff time, is there's professional entities out there that do this sort of thing, that have the contracts, the contacts, the experience and proven records of putting on events like this, and that's something the town might consider looking at. You don't have to do it, you can just start asking the question and see what the price comes back. It might be cheaper.
Okay. Any other discussion on this?
And what about the potential of the Merchants Association?
Well, I mean, this would be something that would be wonderful for them to be involved in.
well, they were a while ago. That
To
was
get them-
started.
To get them back, I think resolves a lot of situations just like this, you know. And it also gives them an opportunity to advertise, and for Summerfield residents to really take opportunity to work with Summerfield companies,
Support their local business.
spend their money at home. Yeah, absolutely.
What encouraging people to come to Summerfield's parade was the longest parade in Guilford County, or we heard that?
Yes.
It was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I don't think it was that big this year. I don't know where we lost our momentum, you know,
Part of it is when we started, a couple of years back, or maybe 3, when we started having more policies that brought more of it internally.
yeah.
And we also, with this, contacted, touch base with Oak Ridge, just to find out a little bit more how it works there. And pretty much as my perception has been there, the Merchants Association is very active. They bear a lot of the cost, and certainly a lot of the volunteer and work is done by them. And that's just a very different dynamic than we have right now,
And not one that we have the opportunity.
and not currently. And so, what I'm hoping for out of this conversation is a little bit clearer direction on some of the basics. In other words, how do you feel about Friday, Saturday, and hours, and those kind of things?
And having you all provide oversight and finding a way to facilitate it. I mean, because the committee went overboard as well. I mean,
You look pretty tired of it.
I was exhausted. Everybody on that committee, Don Delkin, Director of Traffic, and
Nancy Bass.
Nancy Hess, I mean, he's not named everybody.
So what do you think the best direction is for us to give the manager? To cut back the hours, to do away with Friday night, to try and generate a potential merchants association to be involved? I mean, he wants direction, where are we going to direct him?
Well,
I think that we need to look at vendors, because that's going to be part of it. The vendors like to come Friday and Saturday.
Well, typically the craft vendors, they set up on Friday, but they don't really sell anything necessarily. And the reason for that in the past is because you have to provide plenty of lighting. Now, we do have the opportunity to light the fields of the athletic park fully, that it's really not worth their time necessarily, because the Friday night event is mostly, it is the spring concert for the high school, and it's about rides. And the food vendors do very well on Friday night, but typically the craft vendors do not set up and participate on Friday night, they just do it Saturday.
So we feel like if we don't do Friday night, we'll lose our ride vendor. Is that a fair statement?
Well, it
And what we
potentially
did,
is
what
more
we
of a
did,
challenge.
and what we did Friday night this year, as I guess in some years past, is having the Northern Band come over there and play. And it was really the Northern Band, a few kids from the school, and their parents and grandparents. I mean, because there was other stuff going on at the high school that night that precluded the rest of them from being able to come. So I don't know how well they would have done with the rides. I
There
don't
certainly
remember.
was conflicting events that aren't typically, they don't typically all fall together like that, with the prom is the exact same weekend.
Yeah, we've not had that problem before.
No, we
I
haven't.
was gonna say, we
It was
used to have a huge
time
big
off.
Friday night. Did we change?
I think school, they had so many snow days that they got pushed
Sure,
back.
sure, okay.
So maybe we could coordinate that a little bit better as we're pre-planning. I don't know how far ahead in time they plan their proms.
Well, if they're on their regular schedule, it shouldn't conflict.
Okay.
When you stand back and look at, as far as just attendance and largely what worked and didn't work as well, Friday was decent, but it was a lot of school folks. Still very good evening for the rides. On Saturday, the parade was off as far as attendance, but from the time it was over and the venue started at the athletic park up until, help me Jeff and Cheryl, probably 4 o'clock or so, it was a really busy place. The turnout was really tremendous. It may not have as looked as such because it's so much more scattered out than what we used to, but the turnout was really good all during the day Saturday. But what surprised us was we put a lot of effort into the entertainment Saturday night, which was a new direction extended. We thought that would be more successful, and it was. That's about 5 o'clock or so that the attendance started waning, and it wasn't well attended in the evening. So we learned what worked that day.
Yeah, I think we shortened the hours on Saturday, and, we were trying to extend it, but it's almost like trying to make it 2 events. So I think we make it shorter like it used to be, and then take what we had as an idea or a concept for later and move it to another night. And possibly because, I was one of the ones that said, let's make it last a little longer, because I was trying to get it to last until dark, because I think it would be really cool for us to be able to have fireworks at the end of it. So this was, it's not that expensive, but,
Gas station.
that's not close to a gas station.
It's not close to a gas
And you
station.
have fire trucks come and sit there. So, but I think for that event, I think we need to go shorter and I have an unbelievable fireworks connection.
It really does.
I want to see it. The whole town would enjoy the fireworks, whether they were there or not.
I was gonna say, wow.
And just to piggyback off what you're saying, which is,
Friday night.
so some festivals like that work well if they have a big event during the day, people kind of go home in the late afternoon. They come back if there's good music and fireworks. It is a big draw. Our challenge was, because it was the first time we had done it out there, we were anxious about the safety along 220, and so we didn't want to have the majority of people exiting the event after dark, and so that's why we ended it sooner, and that was the kind of the sticking point.
Yeah, 220,
We just didn't know
That's not going
how that was going to work from a safety standpoint, so we backed up and cut it short earlier, which kept us from even talking about fireworks.
Yeah,
And-
and I was thinking at 4:30 that day, I would not be mentioning fireworks for this day. I I was ready to start picking up the trash and head for the house. Because it really
It's too
did,
long a day.
it really did drop off.
It really is too long a day.
So
David,
we're
why
going to
you-
shorten Saturday, is that?
I think that's, yeah, and that's exactly what the committee came up with, it's in that recommendation.
And what about cutting out Friday night?
I don't know that, based on the fact that we need the vendors, a second opportunity, and I think if we're a little more strategic in our date picking next year, we may get more attendance on Friday night. Because I think in years past, it's been more attendance.
Yeah,
But we just
yeah.
had so much competition this year.
And the vendors stated, they were done, the craft vendors and such, they were done at 4 o'clock. They couldn't, a lot of them that were businesses and such and had payment obligations because the traffic closed down. There was no traffic allowed in there after 9 o'clock. So they had to be in there and done and unloaded, and it's a long day for them, especially if you have other obligations. And a lot of the traffic for them, what they stated was they didn't really have any more traffic after 4-ish.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think we can agree on those things, which are exactly the things we're going to follow up minutes. But while you mentioned public safety and safety surrounding the event, and earlier Ms. Barnes was talking about the pressure that she had to apply, the person who she applied the pressure to has joined us. And so we want to thank Sheriff Barnes not only for the VIPs, but also for all of his staff who helped to absolutely keep us safe and take care of us on that day. So Sheriff Barnes, thank you very much. Thank you. So I think we have some agreed upon.
Okay, run through it one time for me.
Well, I think we're going to have to look at keeping Friday night and look at picking a better date, a better weekend. We're looking at doing a shorter venue on Saturday.
And what about the parade? How are we going to get people to come to the parade? It was very poorly attended.
Well, I mean, the committee, we sat and talked about how to do the parade. We talked at one point about moving it to Friday afternoon. Well, then the bands that came to participate, we did it on Friday afternoon. I mean, we really searched for a successful way to present the parade.
Valerie, don't we have a list of all the people who used to be in the parade? We would have the longest parade. Why can't we just?
It was every politician that you ever wanted to meet that could crawl out from under a rock used to be in that parade.
They were still there, but I
You can't get rid of those people.
The fun.
Those people.
Next year's going to be different because everything's going to be earlier, so there's not going to be as many primaries will probably be over by May. As it's going to be, I don't know, it's that next year is 16 anyway. Sorry.
The fun vendors are like that. You know, like at the Stokesdale parade, we had all the horses and the donkeys with the little dog on there. And
Did you
kids
tell
love
anybody
that.
that runs the Stokesdale parade about people that participated in that parade, where the guy with the horse with the dog on top
That
of
was
it?
great.
We had Don Stelkin and Nancy Hess heading up the parade part, and they had lists, and I'm not sure if they talked with Stokesdale or not. But
Could you have something to say?
One of the reasons that there was many people in the parade also, Bob Williams used to wear you out
Yeah.
to make phone calls and stuff like that, trying to line people to come up and be in that parade.
You would invite half of Greensboro and then their parents and their grandparents and their friends would all come to watch them. And it's just different costumes, the economy's different. I just think it was an off year for the parade, you
Yeah,
said.
last year the parade was great.
Yeah.
Right, I think there was a lot of different things there too.
I don't know, so where are we going here?
Well, I don't think we're going to solve the parade question tonight, because the committee, we spent hours trying to figure out how to do it, going to the new venue. And I think the new venue, once everybody arrived and got there, served us wonderfully.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
About the parade going backwards, did that have any problems as far as?
But they're just they weren't the people there.
Yeah.
I mean, I had candy left over, that's unheard of.
Yeah, that is.
I agree, kids had gone all the way out by the first block. I was going, slow down, and there was nobody standing there, they just throw it down. So we got to where the people were, we were going.
I was eating Tootsie Pops from
see if I can summarize what I think I'm hearing the census to be, and you tell me. Keep Friday night, but no Saturday night evening portion of the event, and we must get the parade moving back in a positive
Great, in a
direction.
more positive direction, and I think seeking the input or assistance or help of our merchants association if they're up and running, I think that would be the one.
And you're going to check on fireworks on Friday?
No, not for Founder's Day, but we're gonna have some fireworks. I wouldn't be the first to do it, you know, Oak Ridge somehow got the information and did it this year. So, we weren't the first to the bunch.
Think about it before the July. That'd be
Yeah.
really great.
Because there is nowhere to go for except downtown.
Opportunity to come together, yeah.
And I do not.
And another thing, I think that the Founder's Day Committee needs to convene earlier,
Or start earlier.
sooner
that way.
than they
Yeah,
have in the past.
yeah. Okay.
Okay, if that's a consensus, that's my marching orders.
But I would like you to keep track of the staff hours, because I want to know how much money we're spending on staff overtime. And that should be included in the Founder's Day budget, so that it's more realistic, not just some final stuff.
Okay, if we're ready for item D, this is on the agenda, A&Y Greenway. This is my conversation about the route this evening. The request was to put it on the agenda to clarify what the town was signing on for when we signed the municipal agreement with DOT to connect the pedestrian tunnel that's under 220. And then just some basic questions, fundamental questions that have come up during this process concerning, well, does the A&Y Greenway have to be paved? Why does it have to be so wide? What are the width requirements? Why is it taking so much space and area to do this? And what I had provided in the packet for you was the full municipal agreement that was signed back in early 2012, just for you to be able to read the language there yourself. And also had reached out to the Mountains to Sea Trail folks and asked them about some of their requirements, and then very specifically with the MPOs said that, you know, we've had a consistent message that the trail needs to be 8 to 10 feet wide, and that we need a larger area for drainage and for the total easement or total area that we're actually taking up with the Greenway. And so this conversation is just about those specifics. And I guess the good starting point is, okay, the town signed the municipal agreement with DOT back in 2012, and what did we sign on to that? And what we said in the agreement is that we would build, quotes, a multi-use underpass for the Atlantic and Yakima Greenway under the US 220. And that's the specificness of this thing. We weren't signing on just to build a trail or a Summerfield trail. It was specifically, the intention there was the A&Y Greenway. Well, why does that matter? It matters because it's a greenway versus a, let's say, more Summerfield specific trail. That changes the equation in terms of funding, the material, the surface of the trail, the widths, requirements. It's really the scope and ultimately the use of this trail or greenway when it's done. And so I guess that's a good starting point for you as a council. Does everybody on the same page that it's the greenway, the A&Y Greenway, because that's the way it's named. And some of you were on the council when that was signed, and maybe you have a different recollection of what the council thought that meant at the time.
I'm not sure the council really, to be honest, understood that we were signing on to a paved trail with a 20-foot right. I think when we got feedback from the citizens about trails, I don't think they intended for the trails to be paved with a 20-foot right of way. I think their concept was walking trails, maybe with mulch on the ground, you know, more appropriate for a rural town. So, I'm not really sure that this is what the people of this town want.
Did y'all want to see this document?
We did see this document, and we approved this before we approved the AMY. And this just basically states that we have to construct a multi-use. Really, it's just from the past. It doesn't say how long that we have, it has to be multi-use.
It just
That
has
was
to
one of the
connect to
things
the
that came
tunnel.
up that night, is that it can start off multi-use right there at the underpass, but it doesn't have to be all the way up through Stokesdale, a multi-use trail.
Right, and if we don't do it, then we have to pay $52,000. So that's something to consider, that we're obliged to pay 20, is it 20%?
20%, that's the estimated cost.
Of the estimated cost of the tunnel if we decide not to hook up with an AMY Greenway type trail.
And that will likely be a lot higher amount based on the estimates. They won't know that number to base it on until the whole widening project is done, but that could be over 100,000.
Even if it's 100,000, you're talking about $1 million mile trail here, the AMY Greenway, as I see it.
What are you basing that on?
Well, that was in our packet for the AMY feasibility study. And they gave us in that study different trails. So there was the gold-plated $1 million a mile, and that was the paved, multi-use, which could be, you know, walking and biking, walking and horses, biking and horses, all, you know, it just has to be a multi-use. And it didn't, I was under the impression that it could be determined by the town.
That's what I thought. And so that's why you know, and I said to give this to the manager earlier, I will be willing to say that what I thought I was voting on was not what I thought the town wanted. And I'll be the first one here to eat crow and say, I made a mistake. I'm not sure the town wants this thing.
But I requested this time because I've had a lot of people ask me that have heard it's going to be paved, it's going to be 10 feet wide paved, and they see that going down Pleasant Ridge Road, and they say, why do you want to look like a city in the country? Why do you want to take up that beautiful green grass and put a pavement down? And I said, well, I don't think it has to be paved. I think you have some leeway with that, but I need to make sure. And then when I talked to Scott, sure enough, I mean, a greenway means it has to be paved, and that's, I was under the impression that yes, if we wanted MPO funding, it had to be paved. But if we wanted to pay for the trail, it could be screenings or something like that.
If we just want to pay for this thing ourselves, it can be whatever we want to make it pretty much, but if it's a greenway, and if we want the funding, the federal funding on the back end for the construction, then it's going to have to be paved, and I'll talk a little bit more about the specifics of widths and those kinds of things. But one of the things worth mentioning, so when I came in as manager a couple of years ago, this was in the not too distant past, and so I wasn't part of those initial stages and had to get up to speed on it. About the same time, or really prior to signing this municipal agreement, is when we did, as a town, agree to be a part of a regional effort to do the AMY Greenway feasibility study. So it was on our radar in terms specifically in terms of that. And we didn't have a lot of financial buy-in to that, and it was a big effort, so it was easy to say, yeah, we're in to study that. But if you take the comp plan and the policy area about sidewalks and trails, and then you consider that we did this, the Maiden Life feasibility study, it's been on the radar for some time, as specifically the Greenway. Now, I don't feel like everybody in Citizens necessarily knew what that meant, and maybe the council wasn't clear enough on what it meant. And so if you go to what a Greenway is, very specifically, it's the same thing you ever hear the term, which you rarely do, shared use paths is what technically it gets billed in. This is a long acronym, the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials. That's where our design requirements come from. So the MPO knew we were having this conversation tonight, and I told them I wanted very specific answers and then point me in directions about surface and requirements. And that's what they did. What they came back and said was a minimum width of a greenway or shared use path is 10 feet, and it said typically that ranges from 10 to 14 feet in width. And we're talking about paved surface area, not shoulders and all that. And in some situations, they'll let you go down, narrow down to as low as 8 feet. If there's some kind of obstruction, they'll let you squeeze by with 8 feet. And so where the MPO, their source of this, like I said, is this American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials, their design requirements. So they sent me 56 pages of a chapter of design requirements, and in that, they are quoting the width and clearance. Specifically, it says it there too. 10 feet, typically 10 to 14 feet. Rare circumstances, you can go down to 8 when there's construction or a problem area. And back to the surface. Why does it need to be paved instead of, say, screened gravel, really small kind of pea gravel or some more natural surface? And part of the answer to that is that it has to basically be built to NCDOT standards. And they even said that's the way you need to look at this. It's basically a scaled down version of the road, and it has to meet ADA requirements. That's in addition to their statistics that show that if it's a paved surface, it just gets more use. It maximizes the use if it's paved, and that's part of why it's part of the requirements. And talk a little bit more about the width. So how do you go from this roughly 10-foot wide paved area to the much broader area that we've been talking about when we're talking about going down the side of the road or where we ultimately put it? Well, you have to think like DOT. You've got to have shoulders for drainage. You've got to have at least 2 feet, additional feet on each side of that for shoulders. And then think about if it's in an area, as a lot of greenways are, they're lit in dark areas. And if you do that, all of that has to be yet outside of that range. And so when you start adding all that's required to build it to DOT standards, to make it handicap accessible, that's where this thing grows into a small road. And that really is a good way to think about it. And I sent you some pictures, Council, showing you an example I saw of an urban one and a rural one. And they're very similar in terms of what you get. 8 foot of pavement, because the idea too is not that you have one lane of traffic. I mean, you basically, like a road, 2-lane road, you need to be able to let the parents pushing their child on the stroller go one way, a bicycle go the other way. And if you spend any time out on any greenway, that's a full, true, shared use path like this, you'll see it. And you saw that in some of the pictures, that you're meeting people all the time. You gotta give people room just from a practical standpoint, and that plays into the design standards. And that's really what we've signed on to. Do we have to do it? No. We could pay that 20% related to this tunnel, or there's probably options there that we could connect something back to what you suggested. And I've talked a little bit about it to the NPO about that. We could connect something and check off our box that we did it. We did what the agreement said and probably not have to pay a thing. But I think the bigger question here is we've got a comp plan that is very citizen-derived, that we need to look at closely what that says about trails and greenways. And we've initiated a Trails and Open Space Committee to look at this. We've got a lot invested in this. So I think the bigger question is not so much can we get out of our agreement connected to the tunnel, but what do citizens want, and are we willing to pay for what the citizens want? And are we willing to pay what it's going to take to build such a major project?
I think the question is, are the citizens willing to pay for what they want?
Right.
If they want the annual greenway, the $1 million mile trail, are they willing to pay what it's going to take in taxes to do that? If they don't want it, what do they want?
Either way, the taxes, this is all taxpayer funded. I mean, you know,
Right.
whether you're a Summerfield citizen or a resident of Carolina, we're all paying for it.
And the part I didn't really speak to is, and it's mentioned in the agreement, is that it's not just about connecting the 8-mile greenway, it's about connecting it with the intent to be a part of the larger Mountains to Sea trail system across the state. And, I mean, I think it's clear that if we sign an agreement that we intend to do that, whether we really knew what all that involved, we probably did. But
Screenings are specifically not allowed in the greenway.
not unless we just want to go, well,
Because that was not the discussion that night.
right. And maybe it never got that far. I understand y'all had a long discussion that evening, and maybe it never got to those specifics, but the bigger picture here is that if you undertake the 8-mile greenway, at the end of the day, you're not really just building a trail for Summerfield citizens. You're building a trail that's regional and even part of the statewide system. And I think you've got to go into it with that mindset that, you support that. That's okay. Because that's different than just saying it's all about Summerfield and we're going to do our own thing.
What about the paving issue? Whether the whole thing has to be paved? That's the question.
Is that a requirement?
The part that we build that is that we would apply for and want funding for. Yeah. Now, for the Mountains to Sea, is everything pieced together with the Mountains to Sea trail going to be paid? No. Everything, because they're piecing together jurisdictions and projects all across the state, and they're never going to get that. They're trying to get that. They're trying to get that connectivity in a much broader sense. But when you're talking about this greenway, like I asked, one of you had asked me, well, is the 8-mile greenway paved all the way from Greensboro up to Summerfield? And I asked that question today, and they said, now it was, except for there might be a little section in the military park that's not, because they won't allow paving there. And, I don't know if they ultimately didn't get funding for that part or what, but
It's a stretch about 100 yards long.
But the short answer is it's
Other than that, it's paved
almost all the way
downtown.
all the way paved.
From
And
Burnell, even to Burnell.
Even north of Burnell. North of Strawberry Road. It's paved 10th of a mile north of Strawberry Road.
And even that, I asked specifically on that, I said, so NPO, tell me where exactly the A and Y ends related to Strawberry Road? And I didn't get a real firm answer, but right in there somewhere. Because at some point, I think it gets a little narrow up to our parking lot and that kind of thing. But the point is,
No, it's full blown. I mean, there's a bridge built there, and it's just as nice after the bridge for the distance it goes as it is on the south side of Strawberry Road.
roughly the parking lot area was their response. You know, the parking lot north of Strawberry Road, somewhere.
And you know where the tunnel is, we went and walked that day. It comes almost all the way to the tunnel. It doesn't turn and come to the tunnel past us, but it's paved all the way where that tunnel is.
So the A and Y is the greenway, but the Mountains to Sea is separate from the A and Y greenway, correct?
Yeah, it's a separate group, a separate organization with their own executive director. And I reached out to them and haven't got the response back yet. I have to really tell you.
So Summerfield could build its own trail and still be connected to the mountains.
That is my question. Here.
Yeah, probably so.
I think we've been talking about it for as long as I can remember. And I don't know if it started all the way back in 1997 when I had it's whatever. We've always talked about if we want to be a part of it, and if we decide we don't like what they're doing, we can fund our own. But, you know, I think it's really good to bring this back and look at it, because there is a cost associated with everything we do. And it's very difficult as the town has grown to let all the citizens know and understand that. So I think it's really important, and that was one of the things that we talked about when we did the Trail to Open Phase Committee, was bringing that knowledge in and getting them to educate the citizens and to find out what they want.
But I think at this point, the citizens that are aware of the trails are the citizens who are going to be impacted by the trails. And the rest of the town doesn't have any idea what we're doing.
Well, they're the ones that we hear from. I mean, there are lots of people interested in the trail.
Well, I'd like to hear from them.
Well, that's why I'm wondering if it's necessary.
But they were at the comprehensive plan when we held it that night. There were tons of people.
And they said they wanted trails.
They wanted connection to A and Y, so there were at least 10 people who came up who want to ride their bicycles to Greensboro.
Jane, that's
From
10
Summerfield.
people, there's 10,000 people in this town, and some of them might not want to ride their bicycles to Greensboro, or ride to Greensboro.
But you said nobody, there are lots of people who know about it, and there are lots of people who are interested in having a connection.
Well, if that's the case, then that's what I want to know, because it's not what we want, ultimately, it's what the citizens want.
Let me read something. This is not just a list being given you a list. It puts in mind some things that you may not think about. I hadn't thought about all these uses. And it says greenways may include, but not limited to, typical upright adult bicycles, recumbent bicycles, bicycles pulling trailers and little kids being pulled, tandem bicyclists, child bicyclists, inline skaters, and do all that, roller skaters, skateboarders, kick scooter users, and then pedestrians. So that kind of puts it into a little bit more perspective of what a shared use path or greenway is. It's not just about recreation in terms of bicycles or biking, for instance. It's broader. It's broader than that.
It's different than hiking.
And if you think back, if you look at what the purposes are for Greenway, and I had this conversation with somebody about the school today here. You know, that's an attractive scoring component of a project like this. It's connectivity with the schools. But here's what it says: Greenway serves a variety of purposes. Shortcut to a residential neighborhood, access to a school, access to parks and other public places, commuting route between resident and workplace or school. We've got a committee member on the Trails Committee that takes his kid to school on bicycle. And
Doesn't he bike into Greensboro?
I think he does, yeah. And then providing enjoyable recreational opportunities. So they can be located along rivers, ocean fronts, canals, abandoned and active railroad, utility rights of way, roadway corridors, right of ways, and within college campuses, parks, open spaces. So, we don't have all of that dynamic going on, but if you think about a broader use, the paved surface makes more sense than when I came to this town, I was thinking all of the green. I'm more limited.
And I didn't really get into any decision making. I really like to understand what we have signed on to, so that when citizens ask me, I can give them accurate information. So I just wanted to know, Mount City is separate from the A and Y.
From the MPO.
From the MPO, so the Greenway is specifically MPO. Right. I mean, I understand that MPO funding is requires a paved path, right? MPO funding requires NCDOT.
Yeah, or federal funding. It requires both NC DOT funding and the acronym, that long acronym I gave you, the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials.
Lots of money comes from different places, and lots of money are smaller. They're regional, they're district, and they're statewide. So if it goes from one tier to this one and drops down to this, and y'all, I'm just trying to explain something I almost understand. But if you're looking for something statewide and you don't get funded, you drop down to regional where you get more opportunities. And if you don't get funded there, you drop down to the district. Okay, so we are going to be competing with lots of other things as the pots of money shrink. This is something I've recently learned. So you need to look at how we scored.
And we scored very low last time.
Yes,
We scored
and
very
I
low.
don't know that we're going to get bigger. So I think that we need to be sure, as we're looking at this, that we need to decide that whatever we decide to do, we may be responsible for paying for the lion's share if we can get some money to fund rate. But if the economic outlook improves, then the money will be bigger. And I think this is one of the things that is considered, but like you say, you need to look at what the goals are, and they've changed since we started. When this first began, they changed the statewide thing, so.
How they rank, the ranking system.
The ranking and how they rank them. Yes.
I think what you said has a lot of merit, and it's a big if. If we're not funded, then the town is on the hook to do these trails.
But we can
How much do people in this town want those trails, and how much are they willing to pay for them?
I think that's something that needs to be shared and talked about and looked at that. And when you're making a plan for something, you plan for what you're going to do in the end, but you can also plan from here to there, the loops that go out. If you never go all the way, if you're funding it as if you do your loops that you like, that people may be happy with that they're paying for.
Yeah, but right now, as it stands, we don't know.
Well, no, and we're never going to really know, because as we go along, it's always going to be fluid and changing. But what we need to do is, what I had hoped that we'd ask the committee to do is to do some different things. And I went to a course in Wilmington for the NPO and tried to share some of that. Here again, it was put on by a fabulous lady, and if she could come speak or do something and share, those people worked hard. They spent a small number of people, did a whole lot of work. They were lucky enough to have Blue Cross Blue Shield fund something, and we may find something that, some other alternate source than taxpayer funds. where somebody may want to sponsor a part of the trail for their, signage or whatever that they put on sponsored by such and
Like
such.
adopt the highway.
It will, I don't know what it is, but just what they thought of doing is, some different ideas and different thoughts. They researched for a whole lot of things and took a whole lot of time, but that may be something we want to look at as well.
Big program.
I've heard you say you don't know what the citizens want, and there's concern about how much it's going to cost to build and maintain, exactly what the citizens have an interest, if there is something built. If it's going to be $1 million or more, put it up for a bond referendum. You'll get an answer real quick on that, and you'll let everybody have a chance to vote.
That's a good suggestion.
And just quickly speaking of mountains to see, trail folks, we're excited about something in September. It's a 2-day workshop in Hillsborough that I'm going to be going to. It's the first time they've done that. So I'll come back with some good information about that. The chair, Paul Lambert, is scheduled.
Thank you for clarification.
Okay, and moving on to item E, a few things to report from last month. We had a couple of different recommendations from Finance Committee and myself and the Finance Officer about our investments. We have, just to let you know, we've reallocated $7.5 million of the town's money in those two investments per the recommendation. We had a slight change on the term of one of them that was shorter. We still got the same, better rate, so we actually came out a little better than we had thought on that. And I don't know if you want any more details than that, but it's all done on the investments, and I can give you details if you want.
Yeah, and revenue wise, it already had somewhere between 50 and 60,000 a year revenue, so our money is working for us now, so it just sits here.
And then the other item, we covered some of the items on my list in reference to the demo on the Gordon property. That's on our website, and I put a sheet on the table over there. That's what's on our website that got started yesterday. Pleased with what they're doing. They're going slowly but surely. When I was on my way here tonight, they were cabling off the front just to be sure to protect it from falling with the other demolition, because I was over there today and saw where just the work they did yesterday had started to collapse the center of the building more, and it looked pretty precarious. So they're being cautious, pleased with what I'm seeing there. Pick up the sheet if you want more information about that.
Those people don't live next door anymore, do
I don't think they do, but I know the contractor knows that family really well and has spoken with them and made sure they're all good with what they're doing there. Also,
What the trail is going to?
that's not part of this first section, that'll be next. And just to mention it, if there were some questions I saw online about Strawberry Road closing, if you saw that, that's recently closed, probably until November 30th for a bridge replacement there. And that was about basically low sufficiency rating carrying weight of that bridge. It was just part of their plan replacement. What you probably haven't heard, but may have seen as you were driving in, work on Summerfield and Greenlawn, along the shoulders. What they're doing, I talked with DOT about this. I had a citizen actually told me about it before. I didn't know about the paving, and DOT hadn't informed us. But they are about to pave, not down in front of the community center, but Summerfield and Greenlawn, and we're widening the shoulders 2 foot on each side. And I spoke with DOT a day or two ago about it, and that won't be increased width of the lane. It basically will take the lines back in the same place. It'll just have to do with a 2 foot shoulder on each side. So that's being done just to see it and what's going on. And then The only other thing that I wanted to talk about this evening is, we had talked about, back in the budget process in the spring, about having a council retreat, and I had proposed something about that, and the consensus ended up being, you wanted it on a Saturday, you wanted here in Summerfield, and we were trying to get past the budget process and Founder's Day and some things, and so we internally, we've reached out, Cheryl has reached out to both the league, our Piedmont Triad Regional Council, our COG, and to the League of Municipalities, and we have some recommended folks as a moderator for that day. And what I need from you is direction on when you want to do this, with what month. It may be, depending on the moderator, September might be a possibility, certainly not September 13th when we have our events here with the Touch of Truck and Music in the Park. But do you want to look at this for October? What month coming up do you want to take a Saturday, part of the Saturday, for a strategic retreat or retreat here in Summerfield?
Recycle things.
And then October, one Saturday, we have the recycle event. And I don't think we want to get into November as we have the tree lighting and we.
So maybe January.
It's up to you. I thought you were going to do it sooner instead of later, but,
October.
you know,
Does anybody else have anything in September?
if you'll give me a month, we'll start working on getting a moderator.
Very tough for me.
Tough for you? Is September better for you?
Son getting married.
Oh, been there, done that.
So September and October's out for Mike.
It is for me.
Okay, so I guess we'll have.
November's good.
Early November, before Thanksgiving, tree lighting.
Let me just say that the importance of a strategic retreat, I've said that for many times, and I agree with it. I think it's very important for our town to have that and have the council have a direction that's cohesive in what we want to do based on citizen input and past inputs. But I hope we can all make it, and I certainly would try my best to be there.
Yeah, when is the tree lighting?
We said today on the.
We said today,
22nd.
22nd.
So we wouldn't do that anyway, that's too far.
22nd, the weekend before Thanksgiving.
The 8th is, what about the 8th?
Decided.
November 8th?
I may not be here November 8th, I may not be here November 15th, I don't know.
I can't do November 1st. I have a
What
wedding.
you do with Junior, and then let everybody put their names in.
Yeah, that's easier.
Do an email, do what you said.
Or do it again.
Oh, you should.
For the non-doodling and crime, that's scheduling, program online.
Scott, we
Absolutely.
in case we need advice on our doodling.
If I'm available, I'd like to attend.
Oh, sure.
No charge to attend, just to make sure we have if I can, I'd like to be there.
Good.
So that I have the same information.
Sounds like we're
Can
gonna.
always work.
But give me some direction when you want me to put some dates out. I'm hearing you're all over the place.
Okay, so September and October is down for Mike. So do November and January.
November 1, I have to be unscathed.
I can't do it then.
Oh.
I have a wedding that day.
Let's do January, February, March.
Usually the 1st of January.
There's nothing.
There's
on
usually
January,
nothing going
February.
on.
Valentine's, I mean, you did Valentine's.
Why don't you throw out some dates to us and let us have input into those, and then let's see what the cross consensus
Or the
is.
1st.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
All right.
is that it? Ms. Whitaker?
Mid-January.
Like the 10th, 17th, or something like that.
And that's all I have.
Okay. Thank you for all that information and for all the research you did, pulling that together for us. Thanks very much. Any reports, updates, or comments?
I have a few comments. Well, actually, I would like to put the Christmas tree lighting on September's agenda, so it's not last minute like it was last year. So I'd like to put that discussion on the September agenda. And do we have after-action reports on all the events?
We do now that we have a person in that position, Cheryl, to work with that, yes.
Okay, yeah, because I'd like to see those. I think I'd like to see cost versus participation on events to see whether they work out or not. And the only other thing that I would like to have is when a committee member comes up for reappointment, I would like a record of their attendance because it states that you have to attend 75% of the meetings. But when we get their paperwork here, I have no idea whether they went to one meeting or every meeting. So I would like that included.
And that was brought up recently, and we provided that on some recent. I know we looked at it, and it wasn't an issue with whoever's being considered, but sure, we can provide that.
Anything else?
I have just an announcement as far as the MPO meeting was going to be Wednesday, August the 27th. That's going to be the meeting for the Transportation Advisory Committee will meet at 2 o'clock in the Ridgeburg Council chambers. And we'll be looking at finalizing the priority point assignments under prioritization 3.0. As far as I know, if there's a quorum, that meeting will take place. I think at last time it was canceled.
Okay. Anyone else? Anyone else have input? I would just like to say, before we entertain the motion to go to closed session,
Mr. Governor, I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. I didn't want you to take a motion of it. When you're ready for me, I just have one thing to add.
you have one more? I'm sorry.
Thing to add, sir.
You have one thing to add?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're ready for it.
Yeah, I was just going to say how much we appreciate Jeff and Cheryl being here tonight in case they had any questions on some of these items we had to talk about, and how much we appreciate our whole staff in the town of Summerfield. I think we have an amazing staff, and it's great to be fully staffed, and they do a wonderful job. And so take opportunity while we have y'all here to say thank you. Mr. Hill.
UDO, want to give you an update. I think we're about 25% last month. We're past that. What we have, I'm going to say we're past 50%. Where we're at now, most of what remains should be good. The hang-up's going to be the operative chapter of the permits and procedures. And we'll sit down and do our best to get that done. I want to be able to come back, get that all possible in September, and tell you that we've done the part.
That's on the record.
I didn't promise it. I said, well, but we're going to try. We're going to try as hard as possible.
Well, we appreciate your thoroughness. Well, probably would like to have had it 2 months ago. We want it to be good and thorough, and so we appreciate that. Thank you.
I just want to ask a question about that. I was told that if you live in Summerfield, you cannot have chickens unless you live on 5 acres. Is that correct? Because you can have chickens in Greensboro on 50
It's roosters you can't have, the same I don't know, you need to check that, because that's going to be a problem.
I'll check. I'll make a note of come in roosters.
I know in Greensboro you can't have roosters.
Yeah, but you can have chickens, so why couldn't you have chickens here? I mean, that isn't.
I will confirm chicken acreage.
Okay, any other discussion, comments, announcements, input? Someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we recess to closed session to consider qualifications, competence, performance, character, fitness, conditions of employment, or conditions of initial employment of an individual public officer or employees provided under NCGS 143-318.11A6.
Motion by Ms. Barnes, second by Mr. Adams. All in favor, please raise your hand. It is unanimous. Thanks very much, and thank all of you for coming and being here tonight.
Mr. Mayor, so you do not need it, or do you?
I don't think we did.
I'm sorry, let me just say that.
A motion to reconvene? Oh,
Okay, go ahead.
Motion to reconvene too.
Okay, we're not gonna,
motion by Ms. McClellan, second by Ms. Barnes. All in favor, please raise your hand.
okay, fine.
Hello?
It is unanimous.
Yes, sorry.
Okay. Any motions?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that, based on the performance evaluation of the town manager and his performance over this course of this last year, that I make the motion that we give Scott an increase of 3%, which equates to $3,120, retroactive to June 11th of this year.
Mr. Adams, you're did you mean 4%?
4%, I apologize, I had a 4, but I apologize. The
Okay,
equivalent
then.
of 3120.
3120. Motion by Mr. Adams,
Second.
second by Ms. McClellan. All in favor, please raise your hand. Those opposed? Oh, it's unanimous. Motion carries. Any other business? If not, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn by Ms. Barnes, second by Mr. Adams. All in favor, please raise your hand. And it is unanimous. Thank you all very much.
Go